Hi there. Today we're going to learn how to check for a file's existence, and we're also going to learn how to use the random class. We can create a random object that will generate random numbers for us. So before we talk about checking for a file's existence, let's recap a bit. We learned how to create a file using the printWriter class. We learned how to append a file using the printWriter and FileWriter class. We also learned how to open up a connection to a file using the file class. Today, if we want to check for a file's existence, we can use the file class, and we're going to use a method called exists. So notice right here I've got a statement. This is an example of me creating a file object that is going to access or open a connection to mrcrow.txt. Now, I can use this method called exists with my file object, and if that file does exist, then this method right here will return a value of true. If this file does not exist, then this method will return a value of false. And this is very useful. You'll see how we use this in the demonstration that we have today. So let's move on to the random class. To create a random object using the random class, this would be your statement right here. And this would be your object name, random number. And you can use the following methods, next double and next int, to generate random numbers. So if you want to generate a random number in between 0 and 1.0, this would be your statement right here, and this would return something like this number right here. If you wanted to use the next int method, this would return a value from negative 2 billion to positive 2 billion, and this right here would be an example of the type of value that this method would return. If you want to be more specific, you can use a value in here, let's say 10, and this would return a value of anything between 0 and 10. So this statement right here could return 0, 3, or 5, and if you wanted to return something between 0 and 1,000, you would just put 1,000 in here. So let's go ahead, let's move on to the demo that we've got. I'm going to go over the demo and then we're going to run it. But this demo is going to do the following. It's going to check for a file's existence. It's going to create a new file. It can also overwrite a file, append data to a file, and it's going to use the random class to generate random numbers. So the first thing I did was I imported the scanner class, and I also imported the random class, and I imported everything from the input-output package. And if I use this input-output package, notice that I always need to add throws IO exception down here in my main method header. So I declare 4 variables. One's a double data type, one's an integer, one's a string for the file name, and one's just a string variable used to read information from a file. First thing I do is I create an object called a random number. That's going to generate random numbers later on. I then create a scanner object called keyboard so I can grab information from the command prompt. Right here I'm going to ask the user for the name of the file. So I say, hey, keyboard.nextLine, grab that, put into str file name, and then I'm going to create a file object. So I'm going to create this file object that will make a connection to str file name if that file is there. So the first thing that my program is going to do is I'm going to see if the file exists. So right here I'm using the file.exists method, and I'm also using this negative operator. So if the file does not exist, then I'm going to do everything in between this brace and this brace. So if the file does not exist, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to tell the user, hey, that file does not exist. Enter 1 to create the file, enter 2 to exit the program. So then I grab their selection, and if they choose 1, then I'm going to create the file according to whatever they named it, and then I'm going to print the following to that file. I'm going to say random number.nextDouble. So that's going to print a double number. This is going to print an integer. This is going to print a integer in between 0 and 10. This will print an integer in between 0 and 1,000. I then close the file, and then I tell the user, hey, your file has been created and random numbers have been written to the file. If they choose option 2, then I just tell them goodbye. The program is closing, and then I close the program. So let me go ahead and run this so you can see how this first part of the program works. So enter the name of your file. Let's call this random.txt. I press enter. That file does not exist yet. Enter 1 to create the file. Yes. So random.txt has been created. Random numbers have been written to the file. If I go into this file, here it is, you can see that I have random numbers that have been generated to this file. Okay, so let's go back to our demonstration, and this time we're going to come back up here. So if this portion of the code dealt with if the file does not exist, so let me go down to the else statement here. If the file exists, we'll give the user the following options. So we're going to say, hey, that file already exists. Enter 1 to overwrite the file, enter 2 to append to the file, enter 3 to read the contents of the file, and enter 4 to exit the program. So depending on what the user enters, let's say they type enter 1, I would just use my printWriter class to overwrite the file that was created before. I'm going to print all this information to the file. This is the same code as you saw above, but I'm just overwriting the materials in the file. If I want to choose 2 to append to the file, well then I'm going to use the FileWriter class and make a connection to the file, and then I'm going to use the PrintWriter class then to connect, then I'm going to have access to my FileWriter object, and then I can print new random numbers to that file. If I choose option 3, I'm going to read the contents of the file. Let's go down here to option 3. So right here I'm creating another scanner object called input file, and I can use the hasNext method that this scanner object has, and this will tell me if I've reached the bottom of the file. If I have not, then I can go to the next line. I'm just going to grab information, put it into str line, and then display it to the user. And at the very end, of course, I close this. And of course, for option 4, if I want to exit the program, I would just choose option 4 here. I'd say, hey, goodbye, program is closing, and I'd exit out. So let me go ahead and let's run the second part of the program here. So I'm going to say run. So enter the name of your file, random.txt. The file already exists. So here we have our else part of the program. Enter 1 to overwrite file. Let's say I want to append the file. I press 2. So random.txt is appended with new data. I'm going to go ahead and run this again. This time I'm going to display the contents in the file. So let's type random.txt, and I want to read, I'm going to choose option 3 here, the contents of the file. So here are the contents within the file that are now being displayed to the command prompt. So again, in this lesson we are checking for a file's existence using the exists method that we can use with a file object, and we're also using the random class. We can generate random numbers using the following methods with a random object. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.